For the Senate Education Committee meeting. We are going to, committee, have a briefing today on JAG-K. We have with us today Chuck Knapp, President and CEO of JAG-K. Chuck, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm sorry I touched the microphone after reading the directions not to touch it, so I apologize. My name is Chuck Knapp. I'm President and CEO of Jobs for America's Graduates Kansas, and I appreciate the opportunity to appear before you today to talk about JAG-K. At JAG-K, our mission is to help all Kansas students have successful futures. And our part of that mission is to help those students who are facing some extra challenges, help them overcome those challenges, graduate from high school, and get on a successful career path. We are an in-school program. It is an elective class in the school. We have a career specialist in the classroom that teaches employability and leadership development skills. We have 87 competencies within the evidence-based JAG model that we teach our students, and we primarily do that through project-based learning activities. We also require community service of our students, and we teach them financial literacy. Our goal is to prepare them for success after high school. We've been very successful in the state of Kansas with this 12-month model. And when I say 12 months, I mean we are helping our students, supporting them through the summer months as well. So when school is not in session, we are helping them with summer employment opportunities. And frankly, in some cases, it's just we're the consistent adult in their lives. We also have a unique feature that is a 12-month follow-up with our seniors. We have a 97% graduation rate over the past 3 years, but if our students don't graduate in May, we still have that 12-month follow-up period to help them with credit recovery or get a GED. And so, in addition to the data we keep on academic progress, we also put a lot of emphasis on career readiness and employer engagement. Our first name is Jobs, so we want to stress the importance of being career ready and helping our students with work-based learning opportunities. We had a study by Drexel University about 3 years ago, and their research showed that nationally, JAG students were 230% more likely to be employed than students who did not go through a JAG program. We are preparing our students for post-secondary success. In Kansas, we have 78 programs across the state. Most of those programs are high school programs, but we do have 8 middle school programs serving students 6th through 8th grades. We're serving approximately 4,000 students in 43 school districts, and that 4,000 does include our follow-up students. We have a class of 904 follow-up students this year. Our funding has primarily been through a TANF grant through the Department for Children and Families. Right now, that's about 85% of our revenue. The school districts also pay a program fee of about $11,000 per program. So in Topeka, for example, we have 4 programs in Topeka. We have 2 at Topeka High, 1 at Topeka West, and 1 at Highland Park. So USD 501 gives us a program fee of $44,000. Each program costs us about $74,000. So most of that is subsidized through the TANF grant. We also have started 4 years ago a program specifically for students in foster care. It started as what we called Success Academy. We've changed the name to Transition Services. And this is geared toward those students in foster care who have multiple placements, are not able to be in a traditional JAG-K program. So they may start in a JAG-K program, but then they get transferred to a district that doesn't have a JAG-K program. We support them. We aren't able to introduce all 87 competencies, but we try to focus on those competencies that are unique to students in foster care. In fact, we've added some competencies, such as getting a driver's license, because a lot of students in foster care don't have that adult in their lives that can help them with basic life needs and life skills like that. We have had success with our students in foster care. We have an 88% graduation rate for those students in our transition services program. But I will tell you that the best place for those students is in a traditional JAG-K program, regardless of the school. We have had students who have had multiple placements, but they've been in schools that had traditional JAG-K programs, and we have a 95% graduation rate with those students. We believe every student in the state of Kansas could benefit from the JAG-K program. They do have to qualify. They have to have at least 5 identified barriers, but our long-term goal would be to have a JAG-K program in every Kansas public school. We're very pleased with the impact we've had, our performance measures, the objective data that we can report. But the thing that really illuminates the impact of this program is when you talk to our students. And I do have a student with me today. Riley is from Topeka High, and certainly with the chair's permission, we would love for her to speak at some point. I'd be glad to entertain questions now or after Riley.
Thank you very much. I think we'll address some questions right now, if you don't mind. So committee, what questions do you have for Mr. Knapp? Senator Dietrich.
Thank you so much for being here today. I'm looking forward to Riley speaking to us. So what are those 5 barriers? I've forgotten, and I can't pull up the document if it's in our notes.
It's actually, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, Senator, a list of about 33 barriers from which to choose, and each student must have at least 5 barriers. This year, the average number of barriers for a JAG-K student is 7. In a lot of years, it's 8 or 9. Our numbers are down this year because of the pandemic. But those barriers generally fall into 3 categories: academic, economic, or environmental. I would say most high school students have at least 3 barriers. Lack of maturity is a barrier. Well, that's me most days, right? So, but it also goes homelessness, incarcerated parents. As I mentioned, economic barriers. We want to just give you an idea of the demographics of our students. 55% of our students are students of color. 75% of our students are eligible for free and reduced lunch. Just about half of our students are in the bottom 25% of academic class rank. So that gives you kind of a snapshot. But I will also tell you that our evidence-based model requires that we also have 10% in the top 25% of class rank, because we are looking at peer modeling. We work in teams, so the project-based learning activities have our students working together to solve real-world problems, and these students learn from each other. And they also get the experience of leveraging their skill set to help the team. They may be really organized. They may have horrible grades, but they know how to speak. So they see success. They build confidence when they have the opportunity to work with their peers. And frankly, Riley's going to talk to you. If you look at her GPA and you look at her involvement in activities, you would wonder, why is she in JAG-K? Well, she's in JAG-K, and I'll let her tell her story as much as she wants, but all of our students have some kind of challenge, just like all of us adults in this room have some kind of challenge. And so it works. The model is over 40 years old. It works in urban districts, rural districts, and all districts in between.
Other questions, committee? Yes, you may follow up.
As a follow-up, because some of us aren't that familiar with the JAG-K program, I am, but I still need reminding. What do you think the greatest component for success is? Is it the person that you have in the building working with the program? Is that the key?
It is a combination. We have a great model, time-tested, evidence-based, a lot of research went into it, but if you don't have the right person executing the model and you don't have a person who can build relationships and trust, it's not going to work. And we also need districts that are good partners. We need good school counselors. We need flexibility, and sometimes that is a challenge. There are hard deadlines with counselors, especially in large schools. And if they can't move a student who needs JAG-K in the first 2 or 3 weeks of the academic school year, they can actually be harming their student. And we have great school partners, but it takes that combination of things.
So why don't you share with us a little bit, if you would, because you indicated here in Topeka, in one high school, you have 2 programs. So how do you have 2 programs in one high school?
Well, Topeka, every school district has an annual budget process and priorities. We had 6 programs in Topeka, 2 programs at each high school, and it was determined before this current school year that they needed to drop 2 programs because of some budget priorities. We were able to keep 2 programs at Topeka High. Frankly, we would love to have 4 programs at every high school. In Kansas City, Kansas, Senator Petty, we actually do have a Go Deep pilot at Washington High School where we have 4 programs at Washington High School. Mary Stewart, the principal there, has been very supportive of JAG-K. I'm sorry, Wyandotte. We're at Wyandotte, yes. We do have a program at Washington, but 4 at Wyandotte and the feeder middle school program into Wyandotte High School. And I should get that right because our regional manager is an alum of Wyandotte County and a former specialist, so she's probably going to email me after this.
So talk about your transition services program for foster kids. So they are in that as they leave foster care, as they leave a foster home, or while they're in a foster home? How does that work?
They are currently in the foster care system, and they come to our program a variety of different ways, and they may have different placement scenarios. They could be in a group home, they could be with a family. They could start in a traditional JAG-K program, but we know it's going to be a temporary placement, and so we believe that they're going to need the additional support down the road. So we also just work with districts. In Kansas City, Kansas, we work with the DCF office, actually in all the regions, but they'll identify students that they believe could use the extra support, and so we assign those students to a specific transition services specialist, and they will make sure they have equipment. Fortunately, most of the school districts are providing equipment. It's when they move that we may need to make sure they have a Chromebook to continue online learning, if that's what they're doing. But we're providing that consistent adult. We're talking about and providing the same competencies related to employability skills. We're having them participate in our regular statewide student events. We have competition so they can highlight the skills they've learned. So employability skills, public speaking, project-based learning showcase, and similar events. And so we try to get them as integrated as possible without being in a traditional JAG-K program. But again, the outcomes are much better if they can be part of a traditional program.
And if the cost is $11,000 per program, how many students is that?
The cost for us is $74,000 per program.
Right, but for the district, it's the $11,000.
It's a program, a multi-year program, high school program that is 9 through 12th grade, and in some high schools we'll have a 9th and 10th program and an 11 and 12 program, so that would be 2 programs. But a JAG program is 45 to 50 students in classes of no more than 15 students. If there are some examples of programs that have more than 50 students, but they require a waiver to make sure that our specialist is seasoned enough to be able to handle. And also, student selection is very important. And that, again, that's part of the model. You can't have 50 behavioral disorder challenged students. There needs to be a good mix, again, because of the model and peer modeling and those types of things.
So I guess when we had our hearing with regard to at-risk and high-density at-risk funding, and it was identified that JAG-K was added to the list of what would be an outcomes-based program. Are you thinking that the passage of that legislation would increase the number of school districts that would be able to participate, or perhaps the addition of those dropped programs in Topeka?
It depends. $11,000 has generally not been a barrier for most school districts. Some have, but our big challenge with that is not filling the slots. As soon as we had school districts drop, Shawnee Mission doubled the number of programs they had. We have a list right now of about 10 districts that want a JAG-K program. The issue is not necessarily the $11,000, it's the $74,000. And so a lot of our programs, a lot of our school districts probably use at-risk money for that $11,000 program fee. Our issue is finding the $63,000 subsidy for new programs.
Okay. Yes. Senator O'Shea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just thinking out loud, the 63K subsidy, when you said most of the schools don't have a hard time coming up with 11,000, so could they meet in the middle? If you want a program enough, right, you're going to find the resources. So is that potential?
We always offer that option. You can pay $74,000. The other thing we're looking at and working with DCF on is pre-employment transition services funding, which is federal funding, and any student with a 504 or IEP plan is eligible for that funding. If we had at least 550 students with IEP or 504 plans 2 years ago. If we could bill for those services, and the JAG, and other states are doing this with their JAG affiliates, if we could just bill for those students, those services, we could probably add 40 programs. Of course, they have to be certified as eligible. That's not a difficult process. We also need to make sure that we back out the TANF money because you can't supplant TANF, but braided funding models are prevalent throughout the state of Kansas and certainly in other states that use TANF and pre-ETs. So that's something we're talking to the governor's office about, DCF. That would allow us in 2023 to add 40 programs across the state. And we'd like to go deeper in some of our larger districts, but also reach out to some of those rural districts that don't have the ability.
Thank you. Committee, any other questions? Senator Petty.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Chuck, it's good to see you. I'm trying to follow that train of thought there. So you're saying if they had an IEP, that JAG would be able to, or you're trying to work out with the DCF to pay for what?
The pre-employment transition services program is helping disabled students with work skills and training, and their requirements crosswalk perfectly with the JAG-K competencies. So you're talking about self-advocacy, employability skills, and this is currently being done in 7 states. In most states, it's through their Department of Labor. In Kansas, it's through DCF and their vocational rehab division. So basically, it's a fee-for-service program. We provide the training services for those students who qualify, and DCF would get a bill for those services that are provided. It depends on how much you want to charge. In Indiana, they charge $25 an hour, up to 16 hours per month. It's capped at $4,800 a year, because we would continue to serve them throughout the summer months, we anticipate it would probably be more likely to be $3,600 per student. In Florida, they bill per module, so they're billing quite a bit more in Florida. In Louisiana, they're billing, or I'm sorry, Kentucky, they're billing $35 an hour. And again, fee for service. So we would back that amount out. Let's say it's $4,800 for a student at Wyandotte High School, then we would credit the TANF grant if it's, or not charge the TANF grant $4,800.
Can I just follow up? But they would have to have an IEP.
That's the safest way to do it. The law just says they have to have a disability, but.
So you're saying that your competencies that you have listed is the disability. Is that what you're saying?
Those are the skills that they would be learning. So employability skills, work-based learning activities, and I don't have the crosswalk in front of me, but there are certain requirements that the pre-employment transition services students must receive, training that they must receive. And of our 87 competencies, we check the boxes for all of the pre-ETS requirements and then some. And there's already within JAG an existing crosswalk. Now we have to do, again, we bill per student. So if we have 580 students, we're going to be sending an invoice to DCF with the model, what we call model services. So it will be an inventory of all the services these students receive. But we do that now anyway. We know at the end of each day what competencies have been introduced to our students. So it's just, it's bookkeeping and matching up the services with whatever the rate is and billing for that, and then making sure we don't double bill TANF for that. Nobody wants that, obviously. But because we could then leverage that TANF money that's not being spent, we could add programs.
Thank you. Senator Sykes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for being here, Chuck. If money was not a problem, well, we could put this in every school. Talk to me about the trained JAG specialist who's in there and keeping the fidelity of the program. Do you feel like you could meet the demand by people providing the service?
Yes, as long as you didn't ask us to do it next month. We have a number of resources available to us, and to brag on our people, the national organization actually uses JAG-K staff to train other affiliates. We have an excellent team. We have a full-time state training director. We have an annual training event on the JAG model, but certainly you have to hire people, and there's a process for that. The ideal situation would be know a few months at least in advance that there was going to be funding, so we could also, and we've got a plan, we just need to come up with money, right? We would need to add an extra HR person. We would need to add half an administrative person. So we've gone through that exercise, but definitely we would need some lead time, because you also then have to work with the school districts, get the partnership agreements, the boards of education to approve, and those types of things. But yes, we could scale up, and we have plans at least to add 40 programs in 2023. If we were going to have a program in every public high school, and I think there are 393, perhaps it's somewhere in that neighborhood, it would cost about $29 million to do that. That's just all in, not distributing the funding sources and that kind of thing. But we could do it. Time would help us do it easier.
If I may, how long does that training for each specialist take?
Well, and there's training throughout the year as well. And then JAG National also has a summer training. They also do online training. We have a resource called the JAG Genius, which is our learning management system, which is online, so anyone in the nation can access that. Our training session is a week long in July, and we'll have one day that's pretty focused on new specialists. So they get extra, and then we will dig into what we call the JAG Advantage, which is employer engagement, project-based learning, and trauma-informed care. So we will spend a day on each of those topics. We've been doing it for a while, and as I said, we have a very good training team. So, because it's important that our folks are trained and not feel like they've been thrown into the deep end of the pool.
Last question, Senator Petty.
Thank you. And I guess I maybe should know this, but can you share with us what's been the retention rate for your JAG specialists?
Right now, it is 86%. That's through February 26th. And the only reason I know that, Senator, is because our board meeting is tomorrow and I report on that quarterly. Our goal is 90% retention. I will tell you that that's high for historically. We have gone through a period where we needed to make sure everyone was on board with our culture. And our culture has been adapted from Patrick Lencioni's ideal team player. I don't know if you've read that, but he says there are 3 traits for an ideal team player: humble, hungry, and smart. Those are the types of people we're trying to hire. And we've had to make sure that those are the types of folks that are on the team.
Thank you very much. I think at this time, we really would like to hear what Riley has to say. So if you would give her a brief introduction for us.
I would love to. Riley Atkinson McClary is a senior at Topeka High School. She is very involved, has a great GPA. She just got back from the state girls basketball finals where she was a cheerleader. She is going to be a diver this spring. First time she's ever done that, but she took a course over the summer. So she is certainly a very outgoing student. She knew about this Friday. We had another student that was going to do this. Unfortunately, he became ill and wasn't sure that he should be here. And so Riley jumped in and offered to help. And I don't want to steal her testimony, but she's also vice president of her local career association at Topeka High School. And that's one of the parts of the JAG model, because a lot of our students aren't like Riley. They don't join anything. They're not active in school. So the career association gives them that opportunity. So I'm pleased to introduce Riley Atkinson McClary.
Thank you. Welcome, Riley.
First, I just want to thank you all for your time and the opportunity to speak.
And we're going to need you to lean right into that microphone.
Right here, is this good?
Yep.
Okay, I just want to thank you all for the opportunity and the time to speak first. I'm going to start with just a brief background of myself. So I come from a bit of what's called a broken home. I live with my mom and my brother. He's at college right now, though. But my dad spends a lot of time in and out of jail, and with an alcohol and drug addiction. So my mom brought me up by herself pretty much, and we survive off of her income. So there's a couple of my barriers there. Recently, my family struggled with a lot of loss, which the program director at my school, Ms. Canty, has helped me through. JAG creates kind of a family for a lot of us. For my school, while the program is open to all students, it ends up being very geared towards the minorities because we find a home in the JAG program with our teacher, Ms. Canty. So JAG helps us with our academic futures as it's applying for college, writing scholarship essays, finding the scholarships to write the essays for, and all those things. It also helps us with the employability skills that Mr. Knapp was talking about, like applying for jobs, being ready for the interviews, all those kinds of things, which I find to be very helpful and important, as a lot of us don't have the guidance or the people to help us get to those interviews or to know what to do and what to say and how to talk and prepare for all of those things. JAG also helps us with just the life skills aspect, because we've learned a lot about just what the draft is, because that was a big issue for a little while, and a lot of us have no idea what that is. So Ms. Canty makes sure that all the boys in our class are prepared and that all of us know what it is. Also credit, because a lot of us do not know how credit works. So she helped us to know just those little things that a lot of us aren't prepared for, and we don't know where to go after high school and how any of those things work. And that's not a lot of things that you find in the other classes. So JAG, with its flexible curriculum, helps us to learn those kinds of things. Ms. Canty has also taken the time to bring in community members to talk to us. So as I said, JAG is a home for us. It's just a comfortable environment that we all can take the time to talk to each other about. At my school, we've become kind of a family. I walked into class last year and I did not know these kids. I had no idea who I was looking at or talking to. But by the end of this year, we've come together and we all know each other and we reach out to each other when we need help. Some of us are more academically gifted than others, and we find the time to tutor each other just to make sure that we're all getting through. And we wouldn't have known each other without the help of the JAG program bringing us together. So while our teachers are there to help us, we are also finding the time to be there for each other. Ms. Canty, as I said earlier, sorry I got a little off track, she brings in members from the community to talk to us, and we find the time to discuss things like women's rights, police brutality, anything in between. It's an open environment for us to speak as adults to adults. And she brings in those people to not talk at us, but to speak with us and help us to understand where we'll be at in the coming months as we get ready to leave high school. And speaking with those people from our community has really helped us to understand that it's not going to be just a walk in the park when we get out, and that there's a lot of things that we have to prepare for and to know about. And we've learned from their failures and their successes, and how that could really be us one day, and that we should just be prepared for anything that could come our way. And that's how JAG has helped us. That was kind of unstructured, so I'm sorry about that.
I thought it was great.
Thank you.
We have lots of questions.
Okay.
Because we want to know about your experience. So committee, who wants to start? Yep, Senator Straub.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Riley. You did an excellent job. It was perfectly structured. Don't worry about that. So did you know what kind of field you wanted to go into before joining the JAG program, or has that helped you decide on a career path?
I've always been kind of a very headstrong person. I'm going to do this and I'm going to go here. But when I walked into the JAG program, I was going to be a surgeon, and now I'd like to go into journalism. And JAG has helped me with that decision because, as Ms. Canty, as I said, she's brought in several people to talk to us. And after speaking with those people in their different careers, it's helped me to learn that that could be something that I want to do, as she's brought in people from all kinds of different fields. So yes, JAG has helped me with the decision of where to go with my life.
Okay, who's next? Senator Petty.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks so much for being here. So I was just curious, how about with your mom? Has she noticed any difference, or have you relayed anything different to her than you would have within your other classes at Topeka High?
My mom actually works at Topeka High, so she sees very well how JAG helps us. My brother and I were both in the JAG program with Miss Canty, and I think that she does notice how JAG helps us. At our school, it really just helps us to grasp the real world and to understand what we're walking into, and I think that she's definitely noticed how much more of a realistic perspective I've gained.
Senator Sykes.
My question was your brother also in JAG? So did that influence you wanting to be a part of it? Did you see a change in your brother, or was it other people at school? Like, what made you decide to be a part of JAG?
At first, it was just my mom telling me that I need to take the class. But after my brother, he wasn't necessarily the most sociable person. We're kind of opposites in that way. But he found his home in JAG, and he became really close with a lot of his friends in there. He was always like, Riley, come to my class, just come see what it's about. And I was like, Codis, that's not for me. But I ended up showing up one day, and Miss Canty let me sit in, and I really liked the class. And I was like, that's going to be me next year. Like, I just wanted to have the home with all my classmates and to just be a part of something.
Senator Gossage.
Thank you for being here. You do your high school proud. I just wanted to ask one quick question, and that is, do they talk about mentorships or internships in the JAG program?
Yes, actually, not this year because things have been very closed off, but last year we had an assignment to shadow someone. It was a job shadowing project. So we all had to go and find someone in our community that was part of a career or program that we were looking at and where we wanted to see ourselves, that we had to go reach out to them by ourselves and find the time and schedule the meeting to interview them and then to find a day to shadow them and then write the essay about it. So yes.
I just want to offer, if I may, Madam Chair, two things, and that is, my daughter-in-law grew up in Newton, Kansas, and she's a surgical oncologist at Mayo Clinic.
That is so cool.
And my daughter went to DeSoto High School, and she is executive editor for Inc. magazine in New York City for the Inc. 500. So I've got a couple of mentors for you if you ever need that. Chuck knows me, you can reach out to me, and I'd be happy to help.
Thank you so much. I would love to take advantage of that.
We would love for you to do that. Talk to us, Riley, if you would, about how you think getting through COVID.
Being a participant in the JAG program is different from those kids at your high school that haven't been in a JAG program. How do you think getting through this COVID and not necessarily having the normal face-to-face classes, how is that different for you and your group?
Like how is the class different from other classes?
How do you think the high school experience is different for those of you that are in JAG from those that aren't?
I think it's been different with the COVID experience just because Miss Canty, since our class is smaller, our class is about 8 people. So Miss Canty has the opportunity to be really close to us and to make sure that we're all doing well. I know COVID has been really hard on a lot of us, like mentally and emotionally, and I think that she's, like her being there and just offering to help us and to be there to support us whenever we need, and for her offering her classroom for us to be able to come in just to work on things in school, I know has helped a lot of us. And I know a lot of other students don't have that because they don't have a teacher that's as close to them. So I think that educationally and mentally, it's been good for a lot of us.
Thank you. Senator O'Shea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Super glad you're here. I was curious, now my question's gonna float away. Oh, I remembered. The structure. So do you meet as a class every day? Is it in the place of another class hour, or how is this structure set up?
JAG is an elective class, so we see Ms. Canty, well, because of our schedule at school, we're in a hybrid schedule, and we only have 4 classes a day, so we see her 3 days a week. I see her on Tuesday, Friday, and Wednesday. Wednesday we have a remote day, but normally we would see her 4 days a week at my school. So we see her quite often, and it just takes the place of like a normal class.
Any last questions, committee? Riley, thank you so much for being here.
We feel that we learn the most when our students come in and share with us, and today was no exception. You did a wonderful job of sharing your experience, and do make sure that you get from Senator Gossage that contact information, because that wasn't an empty offer. She'll follow through with you on that, okay?
Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Knapp, thank you again for your presentation today. We really appreciate it. We had to get through the nuts and bolts also, so thank you so much. Committee, that's going to end our briefing on JAG-K. At this time, I would like us to go back to the bills that we had hearings on last week. And let's start with HB 2124. And Tamara, our reviser, would you just give us a quick explanation on that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 2124 relates to healing arts schools. The bill would specify that any law prohibiting the practice of healing arts by a business organization would not apply to a healing arts school clinic if it is under the supervision of a person licensed to practice the same branch of healing arts, so long as the healing arts school clinic is approved by the Board of Healing Arts, a nonprofit entity, and either approved by the Board of Regents or exempt from their approval under the Private and Post-Secondary Educational Institution Act. Additionally, the bill would clarify the law regarding training for students at affiliated off-campus clinics, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Committee, are there any questions? Senator Dietrich.
I apologize, I'm not able to get onto all of my documents. I don't know what's going on with my technology today. Is this the Cleveland Clinic bill?
It is.
Thank you.
It
That's all I
is, the
needed. Thank
Cleveland
you.
Clinic bill. And in fact, that's what I was going to follow up with. This is the bill that we put on the consent agenda because it had been heard and we had voted on it last year unanimously. And so do I have a motion to put House Bill 2124, there we go.
Make a motion to
Senator
put
Petty.
House Bill 2124 on the consent agenda.
Okay. Second from Senator Dietrich. Is there any discussion about that? All those in favor say aye. Any opposition? Okay, that passes unanimously. So HB 2124 passes out of committee favorably to go on the consent agenda. Now I would like us to turn to HB 2070. And if you could again give us a review on that, Tamara.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 2070 would allow not-for-profit, private, post-secondary educational institutions to impose a surcharge when payments are made to that institution with a credit or debit card. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Committee, do you have questions on that bill? Yes, Senator Gossage.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe I did anyway, received an email about those surcharges on the Visa and the MasterCard. And I thought that helped clear up my questions.
That is something that we did all receive. Thank you to Senator O'Shea for making that request and for research finding that information for us. So I guess my question is with regard to House Bill 2070. Yes, Senator Dietrich. Oh, okay. All right. Do I have a motion to pass this out favorably? Senator O'Shea? Okay, we have never had a discussion. There, you're hearing and shaking heads for those that are just hearing us and not seeing. The concern about the consent calendar is that this is a bill that's never been heard or debated on the Senate floor. And so there probably is a concern that we just go ahead and, though we know it passed on the House side, but to at least have it come above the line and for there to be a debate on the floor. So I would allow you to amend that if you want to, or you could. Okay, so I have a motion from Senator O'Shea that we pass out House Bill 2070 favorably. Do I have a second? I have a second from Senator Gossage. Is there any discussion? Are there any amendments? Seeing none, all those in favor of passing out House Bill 2070 favorably, say aye. Opposed? We have passed out 2070 without amendment. Committee, that is all we have as far as House bills. I don't think we have enough time to work anything else, and so I'm going to call meeting adjourned. Thank you.